Episode number 283, Be Known for Something with Mark MacDonald, Part 2. Let's do it.
This is the definitive podcast for helping you plan, create, and execute dynamic worship experiences at your church. Useful, practical content in the areas of production, worship, communications, first impressions, and more. This is Making Sunday Happen.
Hey guys, this is Making Sunday Happen. Glad to have you here. This week we will continue our chat with Mark MacDonald. We're going to be talking more about what should be in your thread, as he calls it, the thread that connects every ministry in your church. Now, don't think of this as a mission statement. Think of it as a thread that connects all the ministries. So we're going to be talking about that more. We'll also be talking about the words "be known for something," and what each of them mean, and also the benefits of being known for something in your church and in your community, and more. First, let's check the mailbag. Here we go. For the mailbag this week, I want to share some behind-the-scenes photos of a couple of churches in action that you guys have sent in. These are photos of church media, worship, and guest services teams. I'll share a couple this week and then more over the coming weeks. And so if you're listening to this podcast, feel free to jump on and watch this episode when you can at makingsundayhappen.com to check out these photos. This first one is from Carith Community Church in Bracknell, United Kingdom. That's right, the UK, baby. This is a shot of their tech team in action, recording their pastor. Check out the great setup. They're hard at work, doing what it takes to share the gospel in the UK. Way to go, guys. Way to work hard. All right, this next photo is a behind-the-scenes shot of the control room at Broadmoor Baptist Church in Madison, Mississippi. I used to work at a church right down the road from Broadmoor Baptist. Broadmoor is a great church. Love how this team is serving in their volunteer positions to make Sunday happen. Great job, guys. Way to serve the Lord each and every Sunday. Great, great work. All right, if you have a photo or question for the mailbag, feel free to send it in. We would love to answer your question or showcase the work that God is doing at your church. I love it because you guys are on the front lines. You guys are doing ministry right there in your community, and everybody can see it right here on this podcast. I love highlighting you guys and showing what God is doing, hearing stories from you. It's so encouraging. So if you want to send in a question or a photo, feel free to do that. You're welcome to email me directly, carl@1230.media, or you can find me on social media at Carl Barnhill. All right, we'll jump in mid-conversation with branding expert and author Mark MacDonald right after this. Hey guys, I want to tell you about Kenton Waldrum and my friends at Church Banners. These guys are awesome. If you are looking for high quality, easy to use welcome banners, praise banners, safety signs, portable displays, and more, these are the guys to go to. Churchbanners.com makes it really easy to design, print, and ship your signs and banners right to your church. They are super easy to set up. We have several displays that we use at conferences, and our team can set them up in minutes. Everything is numbered and really easy to assemble. Kenton is a friend of mine. He's a great guy with a heart to serve churches just like yours. So check them out today at churchbanners.com. That's churchbanners.com. All right, so let's talk mission and vision. So that kind of leads us into that. So we're talking internal audience and external audience, and sometimes we create mission and vision language that talks to our internal audience, but has no relation or no connection with the outside community. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, and mission and vision have somewhat taken over. I mean, there's some really loud leadership voices in that arena. So a lot of people saw, wow, we don't have a mission and vision, so we should sit down and figure that out, and it's going to solve all of our problems. Well, it will solve a lot of your problems, but what typically attracts leadership in the church for for doing a missioning or visioning workshop, or sometimes it's like a full year of trying to figure out, so why do we actually exist? Is that it's all about them. So they're just talking about them, and it's like, oh, let me tell you about this program, and why do we do that program? Oh, isn't that a great program? Oh, wow, we're doing great as leadership. And it becomes a lot of navel gazing where we're all sitting around looking at our belly buttons. And the problem is that at the end of the year, or at the end of the time frame, oftentimes it's giving us something that feels so powerful because we've all adopted it, and it's like, yes, this is what we're all about. And then the next thing is that the pastor or somebody in the leadership says, wow, it's taken us so long, and this is so us that we better plaster it on everything, so that it gets put onto the homepage of the website, is put out on social media. And the problem is that never does a mission and a vision communicate externally and woo somebody to come in. Instead, what it oftentimes does is it creates an environment where you just end up proselytizing. Wow, I wish my church was doing that. I'll go over to that church. So you end up moving people around. Ultimately, I guess it's past tense, which is your perception, what you're currently known for. Today, like when you move from past to today is your mission. What is the purpose of existing today? And then, okay, future tense is looking towards your vision, so who you'll become. Well, all of that's incredibly important, but I say take the past perception, today's mission, and the future vision, and then convert it into a thread, and that thread is beneficial language, so that somebody says, that's why I come.
No, so maybe not why we exist, but why, as an outsider, why I should come.
What's the benefit? So that you become known for something relevant and needed, rather than usually it's overly pithy language that no one really understands and can remember. Your vision and mission. Oftentimes, like I'll be doing focus groups, and I'll try to get them, because the pastor will always say, oh my goodness, the one thing that they all know is that we're all about, and like he goes into his whole mission and vision. And so I'll try to get that out of the demographic groups. And people are like, what's that thing that's on our wall? What's the thing that the pastor always talks about? Like, and again, it's just because our congregations aren't as connected as what we think that they are. And instead, we need to come up with a thread that's easy to remember. It flows off the tongue, and it connects and unites everything that you're doing in your church.
So let's talk about thread. What's the difference in mission, vision, and thread? And give me an overview of what a thread is.
So a thread, ultimately what it comes down to is that it needs to be simple. So it needs to be 3 to 5 words that really directly corresponds to the audience. Doesn't necessarily name the pain, but it needs to talk about a solution that you come to our church, we're going to give you this.
Give me an example so we know how to frame it.
Sure. So, and I mean, lots of examples. I've had some really great clients. Okay, so Kingwood United Methodist Church, they came to us. We said, we've got to figure out who your audience is. A lot of people in the Kingwood, Texas area, they work in the oil industry. And the more we talk to them about the oil industry, the ebb and flow, and people are like, oh my goodness, I've dedicated my entire life to the oil industry, and they let us down every single time. And what we heard over and over again was people would say, there's just got to be more to life. And so we said, well, what if we came up with the idea that the church would help people figure out that there's more to life? And so that thread of more to life was, it rose to the occasion because Like, think about it. How many people are just looking for something more to life? It doesn't sound overly spiritual, but you really want more to life, it will lead you down the path to Jesus Christ. In the same sense, we had a Sunday school class that we ran in North Carolina when we were there, and we're in Jacksonville, Florida now. But in North Carolina, I mean, we started a Sunday school class while I was writing my book, and I was at a point where it's like, okay, so I got to figure out what the thread is. Like, what's our purpose of even having a class? And when we talk to people, people are like, "Are you kidding me? Do we really need another Sunday school class?" And there's communities that see a church and is like, do we really need another church? And so you need to control the language of why you exist, which is your mission. But then, so what we heard over and over again is in 40 and 50-year-olds, we all found our lives complex. We thought things were going to get simpler, but they actually do get more complex. And so we heard this over and over again. So we introduced the thread of being simple and practical. And so everything was controlled so that when we left and we moved to Florida, I mean, every card, every letter, every note, like text messages that we received from people, they all said, man, we miss simple and practical here now that you're gone. And what would happen if our church today, our local church, disappeared? What would the community say? Man, we kind of missed that. And that's what we need to start controlling so that our internal audience understands it, feels it, and reiterates it. And then our community would say, you know what, that's what I need.
What are some things, because this is the good stuff. What are some things that should be in my thread? You mentioned simple. What are some other things?
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be simple, number one, and that's where the difference between mission and vision. But it needs to be open, so broad, so that like simple and practical. I was able to use simple and practical when I talked about our Sunday school class. I was talking about our Christmas party. I would talk about a passage of scripture. I just go, oh my goodness, does this scripture even belong in this class? Look how complex it is. How are we going to find something that's really simple but ultimately practical? And so I was able to use it. So the broader it is, the easier it is. And then when you get into the complexity of lots of sub brands, sub ministries, who all want to have the loudest voice, but that's like another little rabbit trail. But all of those, all of your ministries in your church needs to be able to adopt the brand so that they say, you know what, that thread is what we're all about, but we focus on children.
So like your more to life thread, that's the church's thread. It's also the kids ministries. They connect to that student ministry.
That's right. And because it's broad, they interpret it maybe a little bit different. Imagine what more to life means to a preschooler. But then think about more to life when it relates to a senior adult. Like all of the different demographic groups, where you are in your life stage, they all can take that thread and make it their own. And so what ends up happening is that you create an umbrella brand, branded house rather than a house of brands. And everyone is known for the thread. And then what it does is it unifies all of your ministries, which is a huge component when it comes to a thread. It just needs to unify your ministries. It can also, if you're known for something like if you're a Disney and you're known for family entertainment, there's certain things you can't do. So as a church, the thread can help limit ministry. And I know that sounds like I'm throwing out a crazy idea, but there might be some ministry that you're not called to. And what we know is that the stronger your brand is, people might not want to do certain stuff. And what it can allow you to do is just say, that's a great ministry, but it just doesn't belong with us.
Right. That is so good to bring up. I think about our ministry as an example. Um, we, I hope we are known for helping churches transform their worship experience. So everything about our ministry is about the worship experience. Does that mean the worship experience saves you? Is that the church? No, but that is the funnel in which everything has to sift through. And if it doesn't, then it might be a great idea, fantastic idea, but it does not fit in the funnel. So tell me about that with a church. And it might be, we need a car wash ministry. We need a whatever kind of
Let's
ministry.
knit little blankets for dogs.
Right. So how, as a pastor, how do I translate, or a leadership, how do I say, without hurting feelings, this does not fit within our thread? This doesn't fit the funnel.
Yeah, and I mean, I know how hard that is. And especially if there's been a ministry that's existed for a while. You know, little old Mildred's going to come to you and say, but like, are you telling us that we don't, we're not important? And what we need to always look at is, are people interested still, and have they voted with their attendance? So if they
Right.
voted with their attendance and it's just steadily declining, I would take a very solid look at it. But the problem, as I'm saying that, there's a lot of our churches today that we're declining at such a rate. So we need to take a look at our holistic church and say, so are we doing a good job? And if your attendance is declining, I would question whether you're doing a good job. The big difference is that you've got to figure out, where are we dropping the ball? And that's what I find a lot of times. It's not necessarily that your product is bad. It's just that it's being communicated poorly, or the channel's not being used properly. So it's more of a formula thing. But when it gets to trying to make sure that everybody falls in line with this thread, first of all, attendance, but then, and here's where I skipped over, a very important part of understanding your audience. You've got to come up with who your personas are. So you need to have a primary persona and a secondary persona and possibly a tertiary persona. Your primary persona, if you have a ministry and you look at your primary persona, and those primary personas are based upon your community, not your congregation, you need to start looking at who are your biggest groups and who are the biggest growing groups in our community, and jump on board to that growth. So as your community grows in that area, then you are relating to that growth. All across America today, our communities are growing and our churches mainly are shrinking. So we've got to figure out, how do we reconnect with our community, revitalize our reputation so that we become known for something that community wants. And that's where, like, all of that coming together is allowing, maybe not saying to a ministry, you're no longer invited here, you can't do it, but maybe allowing their voice to get a little bit quieter. And especially if it's a very small group and it doesn't really represent your audience.
So is there a way that I want to pitch an idea to you and let you talk it out. Is there a way that I can repurpose Mildred? Okay. So if there's a new ministry that meets our thread, that is a perfect connection to our thread, and Mildred's been doing something for 30 years, would you consider repurposing her? Hey, we have this over here, and I thought of you, and I thought what the Lord could do with you through this, and repurpose her over here. What do you think about that idea?
And see, that's why you're so good at what you do, because that's exactly what needs to happen. Like,
It's not, you're not important, Mildred. Stop what you're doing. Maybe we can just shift focus.
Exactly. And oftentimes it's all she's been doing, and that her whole life is like focused in on this one thing. She inherently, innately understands it's not working like it used to work, and she probably wants to blame the people. And the thing is, as leaders, we need to come alongside of those people and say, I see this skill set that you have,
right,
and here's a need that we have in the church. Would you mind prayerfully considering doing this, and try to refocus her? It's kind of like, in the church communication world, the whole bulletin, I've been screaming the bulletin is dead for quite some time. Well, hallelujah, COVID infected the bulletin and has practically allowed it to die across the country. We have to be careful we don't bring back all the things that we know were not probably working in the first place before COVID. But the people who have been working and focusing on the bulletin, they need to be repurposed into something that is actually working. And a lot of times that skill set can be transferred over into social media or into websites.
Right. Good. All right. So in our last few minutes together, let's hit on be known for something. So walk me through each word and why it's important, because each word has meaning. So walk me through that.
Yeah, exactly. The state of being, if I am an active verb, then oftentimes that's like an immediate thing. But the state, the am, is, be, like all of the state of being verbs require an ongoing process. So in order to be something, it's got to be authentic. And I'm not saying that we should ever change the message, because our message is Jesus Christ and the message is his power to save. It's biblical. Like, I'm talking more of the methods and making sure that the methods change. But we are who we are, but we need to make sure we focus on who that is, and does it connect directly to the audience. So being known, the known, in order for someone to know something, they have to have studied it, heard it over and over again, and ultimately we're all seeking a solution to a pain. So we want to make sure that if you want to rise up and actually being known for something, then you got to emphasize what are the pains, what are the felt needs in your community, and make sure that you're known for it. And a consistent, simple, controlled focus is the only way you can actually be known for something. And then the 4, we've already talked a little bit about this. The perception is what we're against. We got to figure out, how do we overcome everything that we've been against? So we have to be for something. In fact, there's another book that came out this year that talks about how we should be for something. It's so much easier to be against something than it is to be for something. I'll go to a church and I'll talk to them, and it's like, so what are you kind of known for? And like, I listen to sermons, and I sit in on classes, and it's all the stuff that we need to change in our lives. And it's like, all the things we're against are just rising to the top. So we got to take a deep breath and figure out what we're for, and actually become known for it. And then the something, like I always try to emphasize thing. I didn't say be known for some things with an S on the end. Oftentimes our churches love to focus on many things. If I tell you, here's one thing you need to remember, you'll probably remember it. If I tell you 2 things, you're less likely to remember them all. If I tell you 3 things, which is, the positioning statements from the past, where like, we're a church and here are the 3 things that we believe. Sometimes it was 5 things, sometimes it was 4 things. Like, it's less likely that more people will remember all of those multiple things. You got to figure out what is that broad umbrella thing that you want to become known for.
Good. All right. So, what are the benefits? Last question for you. What are the benefits of being known for something that matters?
Oh my goodness. And this is where it's like, okay, well, Carl, I'm glad you asked, because we're going to talk another hour about the benefits. Like, there are so many benefits, and I hope people hear my excitement. Like, when I watch an organization, a church, go through the process, figure out who their audience is, discover their thread, all of a sudden the communication strategy, it practically writes itself. What I found is that it provides words, so it gives the words to the congregation so that it overcomes the perception of the community. It helps you cut through the noise. There's a lot of things going on out there, but if you come up with the thread that's said over and over again, everyone will remember it, and it just rises above everything. And ultimately, it just, we have a big attention span problem, and it's, I say it's a problem only because, like, we're down to like 9 seconds that we have. Like, we just need something to happen every 9 seconds. We lose our attention when somebody provides an answer. A thread is just the simplest way to say, here's what we're all about, and this is why you would want to attend. So, like, all of that, oh my goodness, like, my mind's just like spinning out of control. So it also adds brand fences. It allows you to say less so that you listen more. It sets up a foundation for your communication strategy. Like, everything comes down to understanding and knowing your thread. And then what it does is it allows people to fully get why I would want to come on a regular basis to your church.
Awesome. Well, man, thank you so much for your time today. Tell me, how can we get your book, Amazon, and how can we keep up with you?
Absolutely. So the book, if you can go to Amazon, or if you go to beknownbook.com, then you can see that we've bundled some packages there, and there's some cost savings for the church. It's a great book to lead your entire ministry through, whether it's your leadership or your staff, because every chapter, at the end of every chapter, there's some questions and answers, and well, I don't give you answers. There's questions for your answers, and that it's like, okay, you nodded all the way through this. You're going, yeah, that's right. And it's like, okay, here's where the rubber meets the road. Before you move to the next chapter, make sure you have these questions answered. So sorry that I went into a sales pitch with my book, but the best way to get a hold of me is go to beknownforsomething.com, and I'm even going to give you my email address. So it's mark@beknownforsomething.com, and that comes to me. And then also on pretty much all the social media channels, including Pinterest and LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter, you can find me under Mark Mac 1023. And it's 1023 because that's my birthday.
Nice. Well, awesome, man. The book is incredible. Every church needs to go through the book, and because it sets up a foundation for them to reach their community. Incredible work that you're doing, man. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this with us. And obviously, we've talked, and we're going to be doing a lot together, I hope, because you do great work, and I appreciate knowing you, man.
Thank you so much for having me, and the same back to you. I mean, I love everything that you're working on, and I'm glad that we're going to be able to do it together.
Guys, I wanted to let you know about our ready-made media expansion at 1230 Media. We've really beefed up our library. In the past, we've been releasing products in 4 product lines: series boxes, service packs of coordinated media, mini movies, and lyric media. So we've now taken all the pieces of boxes and packs, along with a massive list of new content, and making it available on the site as well. So instead of buying a pack for $25 or $35, you can just grab the title graphics from that pack for $6 or $8, or just the countdown for $10, things like that. We've expanded to now present 9 different product types for you to choose from. We've also moved to give you monthly, annual, and lifetime options for Go Unlimited, so you can access the entire library with unlimited downloads every single month. We're adding fresh content to the library every week, so jump in. 1230.media is the website, 1230.media. Our prayer is to offer media content and training to help you transform the worship experiences at your church. 1230.media.
The show notes for this episode are available now at makingsundayhappen.com.
Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us on the show this week. Next week, we're going to start a brand new series. It's going to be 2 weeks long. That is one of my absolute favorites. I'll be talking with Savannah Kimberlin from Barna, and she is Barna's Director of Published Research. We'll be talking through some of the top findings from Barna, showing real stats on church online, church attendance, the state of where the church is, and more. I cannot wait to share this information with you. It really gives us a solid grasp of where the church is and some practical tools on where to go. So how to craft worship experiences, how to reach our community. So we're taking the data that we know and we are moving that into practical tools to reach our community for Jesus. So there is hope. We have seen some decline in church attendance, and we'll share all those stats next week, but there is incredible hope for the future. So I cannot wait for you to check out next week's episode of the show. Savannah Kimberlin from Barna Research. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out this week. Go out there and create some incredible worship experiences this weekend. I'll catch you next week.
Making Sunday Happen is a production of the ministry of 1230 Media. For show notes, archive episodes, and more free resources for your church, visit makingsundayhappen.com.